Hey guys, welcome to Project Melon Music's YouTube channel with the host El Young, and we are here with Nick and Kat from Midland Railway. So, guys, welcome.
Hello.
So, could you introduce yourselves and what you do within the band?
Kat, you should go first.
I'll go. Okay.
Yeah, go on.
I'm Kat. I currently play lead guitar. I have played bass. I've been on bass duties before, but I am currently in the spot of lead guitar.
Cool.
And I'm Nick. I'm the singer, rhythm guitarist, and generally main songwriter.
Cool. So, let's type into some questions. As kids, what were you listening to?
Well, what age do we go from? Let's see.
The earliest memories, basically.
So, I suppose the first pop music I was listening to was my dad playing the Beatles quite a lot. My dad still is a huge fan of the Beatles, at least alongside lots of classical music. And then for me, the band that introduced me to rock music was Nirvana. And I then got into actually Therapy were another of my they were the sorts of band that got me into the more kind of heavy rock music, I guess. And then let's see, I listened to lots of the 90s pop punk. And then I remember the band that first made me want to play the guitar more than any other was probably Weezer. And then the band that first that going to see first made me think I really want to play in a band and do this was actually it was Idlewild, watching them play live.
Yeah, cool.
So that's a very brief history of my growing up music anyway.
Cool.
For me, I'll start with my dad. So my dad's all into Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, classic guitarists. So I grew up listening to a lot of that. But then my mum's into a Michael Ball and all the all the singers, the pop singers. A lot of musicals in the house as well. And then during primary school, high school, I was listening to Westlife, NSYNC, the boy bands of the time. But then I discovered, I think mainly because of my brother, because my brother's 6 years older than me, so he was getting more into the rock stuff. So he was listening to Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, so I got into that as well. And then from there, it's just flourished really. I listen to a lot of genres, to be honest, but predominantly rock. And at the minute, I'm listening to Ghost a lot. Ghost is my number one right now, but yeah, it's very varied, and I blame my parents for how varied it is, but no, I love it, absolutely love it. I think my first live gig was not including pop stuff. I don't really count that, but first gig was Korn, I think. That was good. I was seating though, which kind of sucked, but still good.
Korn seated sounds like an interesting experience.
Yeah, it was at the Apollo, so it felt a bit sketchy because you've got standing and then the one balcony for seated, and it did feel a bit sketchy with thousands of monsters just jumping down, up and down.
Yeah. It's sometimes
supported by Linkin Park from that balcony.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I was going to say the first gig I went to was Symposium. That's quite a. I don't know how many of the viewers or listeners will be familiar with them, but they were they were like a really punky Britpop band, I guess is probably the best way to describe them. They were really good live. It was a great introduction to live music.
Cool. Yeah, my first real proper doom metal gig was back in 97. It was Type O Negative. Yeah, it was on their October Rust album tour. So that was a hell of a gig down in Leeds. Right. So that was really cool. So apart from your dad and brother, was there any other people who got you into music, such as like other siblings, or was it a friend, or was it a journey of self-discovery?
It mostly was self-discovery. Especially in high school, I was the only, we called ourselves moshers back in the day. I was the only one that would, was going down that route. And then I think there was the odd other person who listened as well. So we did kind of band together. I was very involved in the music department as well. So there were some influences there. But yeah, I think for me, it was a lot of self-discovery, a lot of late nights gaming, seeing what music was available to listen to. And yeah, we had Sky TV, so I had Kerrang on all the time, and flicking through the music channels. So yeah, it was, for me, it was a lot of myself just seeing what I enjoy. And I still do that now. Like with Spotify, I have an ongoing collection of, if I hear something, I'll stick it in, and then yeah, it's just growing every day, really.
Spotify gets a lot of stick, doesn't it? But it is quite cool when it suggests a band for you who you end up really liking. In fact, that was how I got into Manchester Orchestra, who are one of my favourite bands of the last few years. Spotify just suggested a few of the songs over a few months, and I was like, these are really good. So yeah.
Cool.
Virtual
Nick?
DJ.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Nick, was it for you when you got into listening to like a lot broader, like spectrum of music? Was it like a journey of self-discovery?
Well, how to describe it? I didn't have any older siblings to introduce me to music because I was the oldest of the kids in the family. So, but I did have some friends who were, what one of my friends used to do, because this was how we got into music. This is going to sound like so antiquated for any youngsters watching, but what we used to do was listen to the radio, and if a song came on that seemed like it might be good, then we'd try and hit the record button quickly enough to with a cassette in the radio player to try and record it, so as a way of like finding new music.
Not that old. MTV, I mean, I did that.
MTV was good too, actually. I mean, I actually got into a lot of the bands that I liked during my teens through MTV. Then when I was a bit older and started going out, and I'd do things like, if the DJ played a song that I really liked and didn't know, I'd go and ask what it was, which turned out DJs generally love that when because it's kind of like they're feeling appreciated. They feel like they're introducing you to new stuff that way, so they're like generally kind of happy that they're that they're like doing their bit for spreading this good new music. And friends, girlfriends, that just there were quite a few people who introduced me to different bands at various points. But it's and there were a few bands where I'd go along to festivals and just see who's playing, and go around some random bands and see if I like any of them.
Cool. So, out of all the bands that you've listened to over the years, who was your sort of like absolute influence to say, I want to do that. I want to get up on stage and actually play the guitars or sing or whatever it is?
Who should go first? Let's see. Should I go first this time?
Yeah.
Okay. So the band that made me want to go up and play on stage was more than any other was probably Idlewild, because they, in their early years. So I mean, they're not particularly famous these days, but their early stuff, it was like kind of punk rock, but really dark and really kind of it could be very kind of poetic at times as well, almost like they're sometimes described as a sort of punk rock. Like a punk rock Smiths almost, but their live gigs were fantastic because it was so kind of energetic. The crowd would be sort of so into it, and I was just like, "This is amazing! I want to do that." Although I should also mention though, there's I feel like there's the different components that make up a good song. I'm sort of influenced by a few different artists in that respect. Like in that the guitar sound that I always absolutely loved was the sort of Rick Ocasek style production that you get on the Weezer Blue and Green albums, because it just sounds sort of really heavy, but kind of but in a really nice way where the melody comes through really well. And my favorite lyricist was Conor Burst from Bright Eyes. So there's a few different. It's almost like, I don't know. I guess if you can try and take the best different bits of the music that you like from different things, you can hopefully come up with something that you can enjoy making, and also that has good bits of lots of things, and hopefully gives you a decent chance of making some decent music. Hopefully that's been my theory at least.
Cool. Kat?
It's hard for me to say really, because when I was growing up, I was more aiming to be a singer. So I was classically trained in high school to sing. So some of the bands that I listened to, I was focusing more on the vocalists. So for example, one of my favorite bands at the minute, or for quite a while actually since they started, is Alter Bridge, with Miles Kennedy on vocals. His vocal range is insane. If you've listened to any of his original or his first band, Mayfield 4, there's a track on there where the height that he can go, I don't understand how he can do it. It's insane. But then you've also got, I was never really a fan, and don't hate me for this, never really a fan of female fronted bands, and I don't know why. So I never really listened to any. So vocal wise, I was always listening to stuff like him. So with Bill Vallow, Bullet from a Valentine, all the male led bands. But now coming forward, you've got, as I'm doing guitar stuff now, it's hard to say, because I always, aim for, what's the vocals like? But I guess maybe it goes back to when I was a kid of, at the minute, if I could play like Jimi Hendrix or, Eric Clapton. But that's because of what my dad was listening to, and my dad was playing the guitar as well and stuff. So I was kind of copying what my dad was doing. So yeah, and I mentioned Ghost earlier as well. Tobias's vocals are fantastic, but then you've got all the other musicians as well. With the new album coming out, some of the guitarists there, they're quite cool, and I do want to try and learn some. So yeah, there's a variety of bands who have influenced what I want to be doing musically.
Yeah, cool.
And because I never had any sort of vocal training as I was growing up at all. So I remember when the first band that I played in, I just played guitar and did a few backing vocals. But I think I didn't think I was good enough at singing for a long time to be able to front a band, and that kind of probably something that put me off doing it a bit sooner actually. And one of the biggest inspirations for me in that respect was listening to Bright Eyes, actually, because Conor Burst is not someone who would do well on X Factor or any other kind of singing competition, but yet his music works really, really well. So I was kind of like, okay, I don't have to be like the most, oh my God, what an amazing voice he's got, sort of singer to to make music that can make a big difference to people. And I think I've got a bit less crap over the years, but I still don't think I'm any sort of, I don't think I'm a singer that many people would aspire to sing like, but if the end result, if the music ends up being good, then I think that's kind of more important. But then maybe I feel like I've had to try a bit harder at the songwriting, because it's almost like, well, otherwise, if the songs aren't really good, well, people aren't going to just be like, oh my God, he's got an amazing voice, I need to listen to that, because that just won't happen.
Cool. I think I know there's quite a few people in the chat there who are sort of like got into Alter Bridge because of a channel that we follow, Steph the Alter Nerd, who actually loves Alter Bridge. Seen him about 4 or 5 times and that's how she came up with the channel name. Because it's like being a nerd and loving Alter Bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been to nearly every single Alter Bridge gig, but then that's also led actually to Mark Tremonti's solo stuff. Amazing guitarist, but he can sing as well. You know, hearing him sing Frank Sinatra, it's mental. Like, so it's great.
Yeah,
fantastic band, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, they are. So, before you started Railway, Midland Railway, were you in any other bands prior?
I'll go with this one. Nope. No, I wasn't. To be honest, it's interesting how it happened. So me and Nick have known each other for what, nearly a decade now.
A bit longer than that.
It's way longer than that, actually.
So in 2010.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
so how long was that?
Because 2010. So that's 15 years ago. Yeah, because in 2010 I was sort of I just got out of a really awful relationship and was kind of rebuilding my life a bit, really, and started playing lots of Magic the Gathering, and that was where I met Kat.
Yeah, so me and Nick got along through, you know, playing card games and stuff, and there was a point where Nick was like, "Oh, because you weren't." Were you playing with someone else at the time, or did you just have a different drummer? I can't. It was so long ago, I can't remember. There was a point where Nick had asked me to learn some. Was it guitar? I can't remember. Again, so long ago.
I think it was bass. I think.
Yeah.
So it was. Actually, in fact, shall I do my sort of brief band history, which will kind of lead us up to that point where this happened, really. So the first ever band I was in was a band called Pink Fluffy Cloud Machine, which we did loads of gigs in a relatively short space of time, and then I guess there were a few of the sort of tensions within the band kind of boiled over, and it was all a bit all kind of a bit of a dramatic meltdown, which was not ideal. Although actually the song on our album was an attempt to write a song was kind of inspired by the breakup of that band, actually. So some good things came out of it. Oh, and Bedroom Analysis mentions the banner that we used as a backdrop as well. So there's a few, you know. So there's a few ways that they've stayed relevant through the work of Midland Railway. So then I formed. So I was like, okay, what do I do next? And I knew Rob, who he was he could play guitar a bit and really wanted to be in a band. So we started practicing together, and and our skills kind of complemented each other quite well, because I could come up with different song melodies. He could add a bit more technical depth to them to sort of make them, you know, flesh them out a bit better. The first year of the band, we had the initial lineup was me, Rob, a guy called Tom, and David, Tom was playing bass, David was on drums, and then Tom left after only a year or so, and Sarah has been during then and has been in the band ever since. And we actually had that same lineup. Well, we sort of. So that was 2004 that we did our first gig, and then we kind of called it a day in 2008, because we were kind of like, oh well, but you know, we're not getting anywhere, and I guess we're all too old now, and you know, it seems, which feels kind of ridiculous that we were thinking that back then, and then so during this sort of quite long hiatus, I wrote a whole bunch of songs, including some of them that are now on the first album. So songs like the Pokemon Adventure and the Song of Hannah Beth, which is going to be our next single. You know, I wrote both of those in 2010. 2009 and 2010 respectively. And then I was like, okay, I need a band to play them. And that was just weirdly hard to get a band together for some reason. And eventually me and Rob started practicing together, and then we needed a bass player, and that was where I first asked you about it, Kat.
Yeah.
So
apparently I didn't want to. So.
Well, I remember you came along to a gig with us, which is funny. You and Rob met each other, but then both forgot that you'd met each other. But it definitely happened. And then every time invited you along to practices, I think you usually just didn't reply, and I was like, yeah, I don't think she wants to do this. And then we ended up reforming Midland Railway in 2013 and kind of doing a few gigs. We weren't super active though. It was like a couple of gigs a year and then David passed away in 2018, and it's so quite. The band has a long backstory. It was that was obviously by far the worst thing that the band's been through. So then we had a couple more years off and got the band back together during the COVID lockdown, actually, because it was one of the few things that we could do. And then it's almost, I don't know, the world changed so much since I first started gigging. So I felt like we've been like learning a load of it again, but like how to do a load of the different things. But the last year or so has been like really quite exciting, and which has actually kind of coincided with Kat getting involved. so that's worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
Cool. So when did I start playing? So Sarah couldn't make a few festivals. So I stood in. Nick posted on Facebook going, "Is there anyone that can play?" And I was just like, "Oh, is this the time?" So I was like, "Nick, send me the stuff." So I learned everything in a week. I think it was
very, very quickly. Yeah.
So I stood in for Sarah for a few shows, and then it kind of, I didn't have anything to do, but then I'd still be around. I'd do a bit of photography and stuff for you, and then Andy had started to get some health issues and wanted to take a step back, basically. And so, I thought, do you know what? Can I learn these lead guitar parts? Turns out I can. So, I'm still learning, but I've got the majority of the tracks down. So, yeah.
In a way, though, isn't it? One part of the beauty of making music is that you do always learn stuff. Just there's you can always find different ways of playing stuff better, and even if you're just playing the same songs, there's all So it was like people say that the songwriting process is never finished. You might record a particular version of it, but you can still then come up with with ways of making bits of it sound better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
But this last year, though, you've kind of caught the most exciting part of it in a way, haven't you, Kat? Because we actually, I suppose you joined just after what's currently the biggest gig we've done, where we played at Manchester Academy 2, which I don't know how familiar you are with that venue, but it's pretty big for, well, certainly by our standards. And this is a part of a University of Manchester festival. That was just an amazing thing on that stage. And then we joined a management agency at the start of this year. And then just as we were about to release our first album, we got signed to a distribution deal with Golden Robot Records. And then what happened next? And we got and Rare Visman Records have put out a physical version of the album. So it's been it's massively increased the amount of very unglamorous band admin necessary, but it's worth it though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I was just
it feels like I was just gonna say, just like after trying to do this whole musical thing for such a long time, it feels like we're really starting to get noticed and recognized, which is really nice actually. And it's sort of, it's not in any way the normal kind of pattern for how a band kind of gets noticed or gets anywhere, I guess, but I don't know, I suppose the persistence and patience seems to be paying off, which is nice.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So I was going to explain for the last 12 months, but anything else? Have you been, after you released the album, the first album? Is there anything else coming up that you've been working on in the last 12 months? So it's just like writing, recording, stuff like that.
Yeah. We went and we've already recorded the first song from our next. Not sure if it'll be an album or EP yet, but that came out pretty well, didn't it? That was very, very soon after you joined, wasn't it, Kat? Because you basically came up with the bass line for that one, and then we got in the studio and recorded it. And
I think we had it all recorded in a month, I think.
I mean, it really came together. It came together gloriously.
Quite quick.
It's like one of those. It's almost like the musician's dream, isn't it? When you kind of go from an idea of a song and it just all kind of comes together almost instantly. And it's like, why can't? If only that could happen all the time. All this music stuff would be so easy. But it doesn't usually go that way. Yeah, so we're sort of we've got some more songs in the pipeline. We've got to get these. I think the problem is, you don't want to try and record things too soon. It's often best to test them out live a bit first, get a bit of a, let them evolve a little bit in the way that comes from playing them. But I think we need to get back in the studio relatively soon. There will be more releases to come before long. But I think the album only came out at the very end of February. Actually, no, not the end. It was in the middle of February on Valentine's Day, and and then we've got the last of the singles from that album is due out provisionally, I think the 27th of June, if I remember rightly. So yeah, so we're sort of, I don't know, it's like we're still very much trying to get the album noticed, because I think hopefully it's an album that is that people will feel is like worth all the time that it took to kind of get it together, because obviously we're working on that for a long time. But yeah, but it's weird because we've also kind of got this an eye on, well, what happens next, because there's always this backlog in making music, where in a way the album coming out this year, well, that's kind of a product of the work we've done over many years actually, and in a way the key thing now is to try and kind of keep working at new songs so that we've got something to release like next year and the year after and so on, and that will hopefully be of as much or more interest to people as what we've done so far.
Cool. Yeah, so could you tell us a little bit about the album that you just released?
What would you most like to know about it?
Anything you want. Like how many tracks is there?
So on the digital version, there are 10. The physical version, there's actually 13, because we've included a sort of, it's kind of a bonus EP of our very early stuff. However, we are going to be releasing the bonus EP digitally soon. We don't yet have a date confirmed. That'll probably be the next release after the upcoming single. So watch this space. It'll be on Spotify and the various other streaming platforms soon. But if you want to hear the EP of our very early recordings, which I'm curious what you think about this, Kat, because I think they do sound like less. What's the word? They sound like less well. Like there's maybe a bit less to some of those older songs than the ones since then. So they don't quite fit with the rest of the album, but they're not miles removed either.
No, let me just bring up. Sorry, my computer is there. This is how bad my memory is. I have to reference stuff. God, pressure being on.
No worries.
Well, Kat's looking that up. I'll say, but so the singles that we've released so far, the one that we brought out just before the album came out was "She Loves Ted Bundy," which has been our most well listened to single so far. It's very much a pop punk song, and it's all about dating a girl who kind of wishes she's dating serial killer Ted Bundy. So it's quite a unique topic as far as songs go, I think. But it's that's the one that tends to grab people's attention, that people remember when they see it, that people remember most when they see us live. It's our most streamed song by a long way. It was actually the last one that we wrote in making the album, and it's the opening song on there. We released Bedroom Analysis just a little bit before the album came out as well. That song is our only single that's in 6/8 for those of you who like a different time signature. But that one's that one's one of the darker ones. I'm quite fond of that one. And we have the Pokemon Adventure that was actually the first of the songs that we recorded when we kind of got the band back together during the lockdown, and that's one of my, that's one I'm very proud of, actually. It's my dad's favorite song that we've got.
It's fun to play. It's fun to play.
It's sort of, I remember when one of the little things that I really liked about it from a songwriting perspective was that it sort of tells a story, but the music kind of fits the moods of the music kind of fits the story really well, and it's kind of just all came together really nicely. And one of the most popular one, it's funny, like She Loves Ted Bundy is the one that grabs people's attention. The one that people who already like our music tend to pick out as their favorite is probably our next single, which is a song by Hannah Beth. That's track 3 on the album, and that's it's one of our more indie pop ones, I guess. It's a bit less punk rock, but it's I think it's something that I guess the lyrics kind of give people a bit to think about, and I think it's got a really nice melody. So
cool. We've got a question from Aussie Ann 2025. She asks, any gigs or tours planned, and if so, where?
So we
test Cat's memory.
Test my memory. Okay. So we're playing in Blackpool on Saturday. I don't know what time are we playing at, Nick? I don't know.
Well, I do. We're playing. We're on stage first. We're on at 8 o'clock. We're at Alt 3 Cafe and Bar. We've got the full details are on our Facebook and Instagram pages, where you can find us at Midland Railway Band. We've also got a Linktree page that you can find from. Actually, if you Google Linktree Midland Railway, it's got links to the various gigs we've got coming up. Although the one on Saturday is actually free. So
yeah, pretty good.
You don't need to ticket for that one.
No, and then
you know what our next one is.
Our next one after that is on Friday the 13th at Retro in Manchester. So
I got about playing on Friday the 13th.
No,
it's like a horror gig in fancy dress.
Cool. All good. No, I mean, don't tempt me, Nick. Don't tempt me. But yeah, so recently, I don't know how many of you know Manchester at all, but Retro is one of those venues that is quite significant in the music scene, especially in Manchester. I believe it's where basically the Chemical Brothers were born. And it turns out that Retro is going to be demolished as part of a regeneration plan, which sucks. It wasn't taken into account at all.
Not a very good kind of regeneration plan in the cultural sense, is it? Oh, even more significant than the Chemical Brothers, I think I'm pretty sure it's the Manchester venue that we played at the most.
There you go. I haven't played at it though, so be a first and last.
You will do soon. Yeah, so it's like it's going to be our sort of our farewell to the Retro Bar gig, but good to get to play there one last time.
Yeah, so I think we're on with was it 50 bands across how many days was it? 3 or 4?
I think it's a week or so. It's like it's a big festival called R Fest, as in Retro Bar Fest, and I can't remember what dates it runs between, but there's loads of good bands on.
Yeah. But we're playing Friday the 13th.
Cool. And then we're playing we're going to be playing at a wedding after that, which we can't invite all the listeners to, unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry.
Because we don't have control over who gets invited to this wedding. But yeah, I've never played a wedding before. It's going to be I always think it's important to embrace the sort of variety of experiences that being in a band can give you, and the fact that someone's decided that they want us to play on their special day, that's kind of awesome. So we're doing that's later on in June. We've also got I think this is the only other one confirmed on the calendar, but we're off to Bridgnorth in Shropshire on the 24th of August. So Bridgnorth is actually, I think that might be the most scenic town we will have ever played in. It's at the northern end of the Severn Valley Railway, so good from a train theme perspective as well. We were going to be playing in Birmingham on the 23rd of August, which I was really looking forward to, but the promoter has cancelled that one, which happens. It's one of those things we have to deal with. So hopefully we'll. Yeah. I mean, Bridgnorth isn't too far from Birmingham, but yeah, watch this space. We'll see if we can get some more added. In fact, I'll just check if have we missed any cat, or have we covered all?
I don't think so. I think that's off the top of my head. I think that's everything at the moment.
Yeah, we're sort of in a way it's just the wrong time to be promoting upcoming gigs, because we have got 2 coming up really soon, but we've also just done 2 in that we went to Liverpool on the Wednesday just gone to play at the Cavern Club. And then the weekend before that, we were up in Morecambe, up in Lancashire, to play at a punk festival called Sleazy Live. So, yeah, we've been quite busy lately.
Cool. Thank you for that, Ozzy. Going on, so staying on to on the gigs. So, if everything was aligned, all the stars aligned, you got the financial backing, would you get off to sort of like Europe or Canada or down into Australia?
I mean,
I would. Yeah. Do you want us to pick just one of those, or like, I don't know?
Just one, all 3, you know.
I mean, I think because in a way, the potential chance to go and see the world while making money doing that is one of the things that does appeal about music. But I suppose it's always important to. I mean, I actually think this is even relevant at the level we're playing at now. That when we get to go to different places, it's quite nice to actually try and allow enough time to enjoy seeing the different places and people, and it's like because for example, we played we went up to the Lake District last autumn to play in Whitehaven, and one of the things that I thought was really important was to make a bit of a weekend of it, have a sort of weekend up in the lakes with some friends up there. I thought that was really cool, because if you go that far and then if you just drive somewhere that's like 2 hours away, play a gig and then drive right back, well, that's that's a lot of traveling for versus the amount of time you actually spend playing. It's like, but if you're able to get to enjoy the people and places and the scenery and and in some cases, if it's festivals, try and see a few of the other bands as well when I can. It's I think I mean, we've never played outside the UK ever. In fact, we haven't even been over to Sarah's homeland of Northern Ireland. So, we hopefully we'll get to play further afield before too long. In fact, we've never played in Scotland either, but management agency is based up there, so that might be a thing that can happen relatively soon. Hopefully,
have we played Wales?
We have. Oh, good question. I think we have. Let me think. Yes, we went to Rill last summer. That was. That was not the most glamorous trip. The Morrissey song "Every Day Is Like Sunday." It's that seemed kind of applicable, Just it felt that Seafront felt so bleak. It was, and the venue was like, I don't know how. I'm wondering is there much risk of the people who ran it watching this and being offended? Probably not. I'm not going to say anything that isn't totally true anyway. But it was like they were, it was as if by telling us how great their PA system was, that was going to make it. By telling us that enough times, that was going to make it good, and it wasn't. The PA system sucked. It was, it was just. It sounded kind of crap. Most of the people in the pub weren't paying any attention to anything we were doing. It was a very weird gig. That was. I'm trying to think. Is that the only time we've been to Wales? I'm trying to think if we've played, because we've played in parts of Cheshire that aren't far off. But I think Rill might be the only time we've actually played in Wales. So yeah.
But no, when it comes to traveling, like me and Nick have we've had the conversations of let's try and look at going over to Europe, and I think it's just about finding the right place to go, making the contacts, and finding the time as well. Really, we've both got full-time, the whole band, full-time jobs.
The band's not profitable enough to quit our day jobs.
But like you said, if money wasn't an issue, then absolutely we'd probably be not at home most of the time.
Yeah.
Be on the road because what we want to do.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. It will be. You'd be. I always ask that question, and a lot of the bands would turn around and say, "We would love to.
Yeah.
We would love to travel, see the world, play music, in different countries and different places, different venues and stuff like that." So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I guess to bring the economics back into it, it's kind of got harder and harder in recent years though for bands to do that, hasn't it? Like bands that are, I guess have a bigger following than we do at the moment, are struggling with the finances of touring. So, it's like, I don't know. We have to try and make the best of what we can. It's hard though.
Yeah. It is. So, you're sort of like writing some new material. You mentioned earlier that you don't know if it's going to turn into an EP or an album. Is the possibility of thinking about just putting out singles instead of an EP or an album?
Possibly. The thing is, it also depends on a record company as well, like how they want to do it as well, because it's also, I suppose, I can think of to use in recent years we've had the different political debates involving Brexit and Scottish independence and all that sort of stuff. And basically, when you're part of like a bigger thing, you do lose that bit of control over the details of what happens. But it's always a trade-off, because you also get to you also have a much larger organization behind you to hopefully help with things. So so it's one of those things where it's not something we have complete control over now, like exactly how everything comes out, but we'll see. Certainly, I mean, I suppose I think it's going to be a case of is there just what are the pros and cons of doing it as just a single on its own, as doing like a single on its own. And one of the things that can happen so easily if you're kind of a bit cack-handed in how you put stuff out is you can release it but no one notices it because there's so much other stuff to listen to. It's like it's easier than ever to record stuff well and to put it out, but to get it noticed seems, if anything, harder than at any point in musical history to actually get something noticed. So in that way, it's really important to try and be a bit strategic about that, I think, so that it actually makes some kind of impression when it does come out. Because our album at least has been noticed quite a bit. I think we've had a fair bit of press, and we're on this show, so it's so there's definitely a few things going like that. I mean, I would like more people to go and listen to it. So if you're listening, please do go and have a listen to our album. It's on all the popular streaming platforms. But it's getting people to actually hear your music these days is very, very hard, and for everyone at least. So I suppose we're all in the same boat. But yeah.
Yeah, cool. We've got another question from Aussie Ann 2025. She asks, any chance on finals, even if it's a short run?
Didn't we look into this? I think.
Well, I think this is a question for Jason at Rare Vitamin Records. If you're watching this is a question for you, I think. Well, Anne, does this mean would you want one then if we were to get them? Because I think it's ultimately the finances. Basically, it comes down to demand. We've got our album is available on both CD and cassette, which is certainly having cassettes is a relatively unusual way of being able to get albums these days. So I think I feel like that's quite cool from a kind of retro collectible perspective. But I think if enough people want vinyls, then I think it will happen. If it's just you, Anne, probably the economics probably don't really.
There has been a massive boom in like collecting vinyl now, especially with in newer music. So, as an example, I have 3 copies of the same album on vinyl. Actually, no, 2 on vinyl, 1 on cassette. So, it's one of them. I think if people want it, then it's a potential. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to cost, because it ain't cheap.
It's the most expensive thing to bring your album out on, really, isn't it? I mean, here's a good question, though. If we were to do a vinyl run, what color would we want the vinyl to be?
You'd have to match the cover, I think, which is doable.
That kind of purple. That would look pretty cool.
You could do splashes of pink, blue. You could do it.
So, Jason, if you're watching, we should give Rare Visman Records a shout out, because the fact that we have very cool looking CDs and tapes, that's thanks to Rare Visman Records based down in Cheshire. So they've
I know. If you do a vinyl, Ozzy on 2025 will turn around and say purple. She loves purple, as you can tell by the avatar, purple roses. So oh well, and you would probably enjoy our cassettes in that case. I mean, they do, the album cover does have a lot of purple, doesn't it?
It is.
Yeah, cool. Ozzy says thanks so much again.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you for thank you for being interested in what we're doing. It is much appreciated.
Yeah, cool. Normally, Lisaboo, my head moderator from Canada, she normally asks this: what is your writing process? What comes first? The riff, the melody, the chorus? What comes first?
Usually, it's actually, I think this is probably going slightly against convention.
Yeah.
I usually start with the lyrics. I usually try and figure out, well, what do I want to write about, and then what do I want to say, and then I start trying to write some lyrics, and I start trying to think of a melody that it's got to both fit the lyrics and it's kind of got to make it's about trying to make the listener feel what I'm trying to put across, and in a way that alignment of the lyrics and the melody, trying to thinking about what I'm trying to achieve by putting them all together, that to me is more important than a lot of the sorts of more technical things, like if I have this kind of chord change in this place, it's like, okay, is that conducive to, does that fit with what I'm trying to do? If it does, great. But if it's try to avoid just doing some kind of like flashy musical thing just for the sake of it. I think, let's see, the nice thing is, though, the songs haven't all followed identical processes, and that is probably quite important for having that bit of variety. I mean, I remember with the Pokemon adventure, I was actually sat on an airplane when I wrote those lyrics, and I remember I kind of knew I was about to break up with my girlfriend at the time, and I was sort of just imagining what it would be. What's it going to be like being single again and going on like crappy nights out on my own, and that was sort of where that song came from. So, and then I wrote the music a few weeks later. And let's see, which, I mean, Kat, one thing, because you were actually involved in the process when we were writing Unwavering Optimism, which is not out yet, but which we've recorded, and is one of my favorite recordings of all. Mm-hmm. And trying to remember how, and actually that was quite a collaborative process, wasn't it? Because in another band that I play, basically I play in a Weezer tribute band as another sort of musical activity, and the pretend Rivers Como, he was telling us about how one thing he teaches at a music school in Manchester, and he was telling me that he challenges his music students to try and write songs where the words just come straight in right from the start, rather than having any kind of, because a lot of songwriters tend to like have really self-indulgent intros, which makes the songs much less accessible. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to try that. Let's try a song where it just comes straight in, and kind of got an idea for the first bit of a melody, and then I was like, if it goes, the melody always came together quite easily. Then I put it to the others in the band, and Kat, you came up with that bass line really quickly, and you and Billy, who was our drummer at the time, just kind of added on kind of quite a cool intro, and suddenly we had pretty
your
much
song is suddenly coming in
really quickly.
Yeah, you're coming in straight away song turned into, no, let's have 8 bars of intro and then you can come in.
Yeah,
It works,
and it's kind of that way.
Yeah,
it's one of the weird things with writing a song. I think that you've got your initial idea for how it's going to sound, and then sometimes other people will be like, what if we do this? And you can end up with something that's miles away from what you first had in mind. And I think it's important to sometimes to try and be open to that when you're, I think if you're too like, no, I've envisioned the song in this way, it's got to stay just like that, I think you probably like limit what can happen quite a bit then.
Yeah. I mean, I remember there was a point you'd sent me a recording of something, and I'd been listening to the Misfits in bed, and there was some guitar riffs in it, and I thought, you know what? Why does this sound like that song that Nick sent me? And so I just recorded a bass line using, getting inspired from this one Misfit song. And then I just sent it to Nick. I was like, I think this works. Let's do this. So that should be coming at some point, I think. But yeah, no, it's just, I think working, I'm terrible. I can't write songs at all. But if I hear something like, Nick sends me something and I can play, I'll get the chords and then I'll just play around with, I'll start with a bass line, see how that goes, and then try and add some noodling to it as well. But yeah, I think it's good as well, because obviously I don't write music, but it's good to learn. So I'm learning to do that as well. So
I read an article not too long ago about how apparently there's when you look at the sort of success levels of various pop songs, there's a really strong correlation between more people being involved in the writing process and the success of the different songs at the end of it, which I think is a really interesting little stat. It shows the value of collaborating with other people, actually, and I think and I think it's quite, if you can find other people to play music with who can come up with ideas that that are going to fit the songs that you've got in mind, it's just the best thing of all. You can, like, because I don't really want to come up with everyone's individual parts. I'd rather I'd rather that everyone else does that, but I guess the thing is, you still then need people who will come up with something that still sounds good at the end of it. So yeah, I feel like we've kind of got that at the moment, though, which is really nice.
Cool. Yeah, cool. So we've got a question from Lisaboo over in Alberta, Canada. She asks, how did you come up with the band's name?
So this is going back a few years. So what I went, well, so my first band that I was in, we had the band name was it got people's attention because we were called Pink Fluffy Cloud Machine. Problem with a band name like that, as we quickly realized, was that people didn't take the serious song seriously, because it's like, oh, joke band name, like it must be a joke band sort of thing. So I wanted something that had that we could make that we could have some fun with, and make a few, that would sort of be a bit of a theme that we could use to make quite a few to kind of have a laugh with, but not something so silly that it would undermine the serious songs. And I think so. I mean, the Midland Railway were they basically built a line north from St Pancras Station in London up through the East Midlands and then over to Manchester, and there was a route running down to the southwest through Birmingham New Street, actually, as well. And they, we were based in Manchester. It had served Birmingham, which is where I'm from. It seemed like, and they had the sort of the deep red colour scheme, which the London Midland Scottish Railway later adopted. This is I don't know how familiar you are, Lisa, with the with historical British railways living over in Canada, but it seemed like it was like the right region. It had a sort of a bit of colour. It scanned quite nicely as well. Midland Railway. It's not too much of a mouthful. It fitted better than, for example, the London North Western Railway or most of the other railway companies. But it also kind of I think there's something quite evocative about it's the age of steam railways. There was a kind of grandeur about the stations and a kind of beauty about it, and a sort of romanticism of all the old films where all the romantic moments happen at train stations and things. So it's it just seemed like a thing that it just kind of seemed to fit quite nicely, and I think once we started, when we were first getting the band together, and then we started doing a few gigs under the name, and it was like, actually couldn't imagine the band being called. We couldn't really imagine the band being called anything else after that. It just seemed like, actually, no, this kind of fits.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that, Lisa. She says, yes, love that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So
I feel I'm quite familiar with Alberta, mainly because of watching 90s wrestling.
Yeah. It's hot. Yeah, Owen Hart and
So I think the best version of the Hart Foundation, though, in my opinion, was the 1997 one. That was a very, very good year for professional wrestling.
Yeah,
at least in terms of job.
Yeah, cool. So, is there any sort of like merchandise that's come out, like T-shirts, caps, stuff like that?
Yes, yeah, we've got our T-shirts have been really popular. It's got the artwork on the T-shirts is the same as the cover work on the album. So if you have a look in fact, on both our Facebook and Instagram pages, you'll be able to find there's some pictures of people modeling our shirts. We also have that same design on hoodies, and we recently got some beanie hats in as well. So it's the wrong time of year for those over in Manchester right now, but so we have the beanie hats. We have some patches which tend to only sell at like the really punk rock events. At the punk festival we played at, we sold a couple, but the other events they don't sell so well. We also have some badges and and of course we've got the albums. Have I missed anything? I think that's all
so
about
T-shirts, hoodies, beanies, patches, buttons, and
buttons. That's a very American term.
Well, we have an international audience, Nick. I figured they'd know buttons more's better than pins.
It doesn't mean we need to Americanize. Can't they anglicize? They can anglicize their way of
I tell you why I use the word buttons. I was watching Karen Puzzles and she won a button, so that's why it's stuck in my head. So
and by button, she meant of course a badge.
Pin badge, yeah. But no, I think you covered.
Next, you're going to be calling our band Midland Railroad.
But no, I think you've covered what we've got merch wise. Sadly, though, at the minute they're only available from us at shows.
Only at shows. We can mail them to you.
Oh yeah, we can mail them.
Sorry,
but there's no like website, a dedicated website. You just have to drop us a message, right, and go, I want this.
Yeah. It's, and as it stands, I mean, look, maybe our appearance on this show will change this, but as it stands, the volume of messages requesting that we send merchandise to people, it's nothing we can't cope with. So if you want anything, just drop us a message. We'll more than happy to.
Yeah, Aussie and 2025 she says it's winter here now, so hoodies work well at the moment.
Although winter in Australia is still really nice compared with summer in Manchester, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, Anne, if you want to, if you want to buy a hoodie, just drop us a message. We'll be very happy to tell you, well, whatever you want to buy.
Yeah. It would it be better to get like a Bandcamp page for the merchandise?
Essentially, it's something that I need to look at. It's on my list of things to talk to Nick about and like try and get sorted, because I think it'd help with visibility as well. If there's something there for people to go, I'll buy it now. It'll help.
The extra convenience aspect. Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah.
So, because it's one of them, like if we're at a gig, we've only got so much. We can go, well, we don't have it here, but we have it, just not with us. And you can always order it, and then we can, send it out to you. So stuff like that. It's on the cards. So hopefully, not too far from
gives people the chance to pre-order things as well, doesn't it? Like, for example, right now we actually ran out of CDs at our last gig, but we've got some more coming over from Rare Vitamin Records, so they should be with us by the time of our next gig, actually. But but that's a good example of where if you can just be like, oh yeah, it's on our Bandcamp page, yeah, because Bandcamp is one of the few sites we're not actually on, isn't it? So we probably should put that right.
Mm.
Yeah, cool. So you've mentioned the gigs coming up, but so where can people find you on social media? You mentioned like Facebook and Instagram. Is there any other sites?
Yeah. Well, Kat, you set up a TikTok account for us, didn't you, as well? I don't know if that's.
I did set up a TikTok. It's kind of silent at the moment because trying to play and go live is kind of hard. But yeah, I think it's something that I need to try and push. I've got my own social media stuff because I do a lot of mountain biking, so I'm trying to do that. But then obviously now with the band, I want to try and have a bit more focus on that as well. So yeah, we're on TikTok as well. So let me get the handle for that. I think, is it Songs for Ted? I think it was the handle for TikTok.
Where our handle on Facebook and Instagram is the same, which makes it a little easier to remember. It's at Midland Railway.
Yeah. Apparently I couldn't do that on TikTok, so I've just used one of our songs title to have a bit of a play around. So it's Songs for Ted. But if you search Midland Railway, it'll come up. So yeah, give us a follow.
There's also a link to my Linktree page.
Yeah.
Which is, can't remember the actually. Have I got
the
web address? Which is
there you go.
Link /Midland.
Midland. Yeah. So yeah, go follow. Thank you for posting that out, Lisa. Thank you for that. So we're going to be starting to wrap things up.
Lisa.
So going to start wrapping things up.
Oh, that totally overloaded my computer. Sorry.
Yeah. So going to start wrapping things up in a couple of minutes. So any advice for people who want to become a musician, whether it be for like personal reasons or going out to actually start writing and recording and producing their own music?
I think for me, don't limit yourself to one genre of music. Like I mentioned before, I've had, listenings of pop, rock, opera, musicals, you name it. Listen to everything. Obviously you'll learn. Especially us. But yeah, you'll learn to like and dislike certain things. But if you listen to a lot of stuff, you'll learn, the quirks and differences of different types of genres and different countries' musics as well. So yeah, just have your ears open, and learn as much as you can. Don't limit yourself.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. The funny thing is that different people want very different things from their music, don't they? So I was thinking, it's trying to give advice that's going to be applicable for everyone is so hard, because what I might want to get out of music might be different to even other people within the same band. Even I think one of the most important things to do is try and find a way to enjoy it as much as possible. I think that's absolutely key. If because there are a lot of easier ways to make a living if you just want to try and make money from it. It's it's like I think if the main thing you want is just money, there's probably better off just looking elsewhere, unfortunately. But if you can make music that you enjoy making, then then it's a bit. Also, sorry, I feel like I'm being a bit incoherent here. Like, there's no music that everyone's going to like, is there? Like the most popular bands in the world. There's plenty of people. I don't like a lot of the most popular bands in the world. It's like, given that your music's never going to be super popular to everyone, you have to be able to to some extent trust your own judgment and make something that you can feel good about, and then other people can kind of take it or leave it to an extent. I think if you're always like relying on if the value you place on your own music is based a lot on how other people perceive it, that's going to fluctuate. It can be really hard to get a lot of satisfaction from it then, I think. And although, having said that, that's not to say that it's not really nice when other people appreciate the music that we make. So I don't know if I'm entirely following my own sort of set of guidelines in that way.
Yeah, cool. Sound advice there. Sound advice. So we're going to start wrapping things up. So, any final words before we go?
I just want to say thanks everyone thanks for having us on the show, and thanks everyone who's tuned in and asked us questions, because it's always it's great to get to talk to people who are interested in their music. So thank you for making that all possible.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a blast.
Yeah. My pleasure.
And keep in touch by social media if you're interested in what we're up to.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, guys. So, guys,
hopefully we'll get.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So, guys, if you haven't checked Midland Railway yet, I'll put all the links in the description, and the mods have been putting the links in the chat there. So please go check them out. These guys are absolutely brilliant. So go check them out. You won't be disappointed. So yeah. So guys, we're gonna get so until next time, we'll catch you all later.